Hey guys, welcome back to Resistance Chicks. We're looking very blue on the camera today. Can you make that, just shrink all that for our intro? There we go. Oh, look, now we're not quite so, now we're just really bright. Hi guys, it's October 27th, 2019. It's Sunday. You know what that means? It's around the world in an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Day where we're gonna, but Friday's show was awesome. It was literally one of my favorite episodes, I think, that we ever did, covering Kanye West. So here's what I want you to do. If you haven't watched the entire show, watch the entire show. But there is just the Kanye section. I think it's like 45 minutes long. And then my mom broke down the highlights down to 9 minutes, and share that. Share it. There's no reason not to. It's the best news in the world when a soul gets saved, and especially a soul that can influence others. We had so much fun here on Friday night. It was an excellent, excellent show. So you know what? Here's the good news.
A quantum shift in the universe.
Here's the good news. We have more good news.
Oh my goodness.
Tell them about the next good news that we have, Leah.
Well, it's not quite the same.
I count it as good.
Not quite in the same vein.
You know what, though? It all is, because enemies, bad people being brought to justice is a good thing.
Al-Baghdadi. Al-Baghdadi has died.
And
he
why
died
is that
like a coward.
Why is it important?
All right, so there's this dude. His name is Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi.
Abu. It sounded like you just said boo.
Abu. I said Abu.
It sounded like just boo.
Here's the boo. Here's Abu. I don't know. Listen, I didn't know who this guy was until we all started talking about Syria and ISIS. And gosh, you know, it's so funny how we all have become Syrian experts when in 2016 we're like, Syria, that's like, is that still like a country? I know it's in the Bible. You know what I mean? Then then we're all like, I particularly am Googling, trying to figure it out.
This is your Google move? From now on, if you Google something, you want to tell us it's like sign language for Googling.
No, I don't get that excited about Googling, because Google's bad. DuckDuckGo is better. No,
okay. This would be your DuckDuckGo.
No. Anyways. So yesterday, Michelle's like, so you know Donald Trump tweeted something out at
6:31. 6:31.
And he says,
something very big has just happened. Period. The end. That's it. And I love that he decides to be so cryptic about things. Like, something very big has happened.
Yeah, exactly.
And I want the entire world to be speculating. Now, here's the thing. Even last night, everybody was speculating that this is what it was, though.
Last night, the United States.
Yeah, so let me just go to Donald Trump. Why are we... I know this is UK Euro News.
No, it's world news, and this was a world news event.
This is when you get to interrupt and just say my line. That's fine. I was getting ready, okay. I was like, you're like, no. I'm like, but, no, okay.
What I mean is right.
But... No, we're playing Donald Trumpy because when we're talking about Syria, we're talking about ISIS, the main reason we're going to talk about a lot of other stories today about 24 terror plots this year alone being stopped in the UK is because of ISIS. The founder of ISIS is al-Baghdadi, okay? So with him being gone, you are going to see, hopefully, praise God, you're going to see less. The reason you saw so many terror attacks in 2017 was because al-Baghdadi was still strong. ISIS was fighting strong. And so
they've been so just even demoralized.
They were sending back fighters back to the UK, and then they were inspiring others because when you're winning, you inspire others,
right?
And there were a lot of terror attacks all over France. I mean, it felt like we were just covering another massacre and another massacre and another massacre.
Yeah, it was like all year long.
It was all year long,
and I hate to say it, but it kind of got a lot of subscribers to us. A lot of those live streams that we would cover, like right when it happened, you know, it's unfortunate that that events like that are what draw people.
It is unfortunate. Let's make good news. What people?
Here's the good news.
Drawn in over. Okay.
think it's drawn. Drawn.
Last night, the United States brought the world's #1 terrorist leader to justice. Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi is dead. He was the founder and leader of ISIS, the most ruthless and violent terror organization anywhere in the world.
True.
The United States has been searching for Baghdadi for many years. Capturing or killing Baghdadi has been the top national security priority of my administration. U.S. Special Operations Forces executed a dangerous and daring nighttime raid in northwestern Syria and accomplished their mission in grand style. The U.S. personnel were incredible. I got to watch much of it. No personnel were lost in the operation.
That's incredible.
While a large number of Baghdadi's fighters and companions were killed with him. He died after running into a dead-end tunnel, whimpering and crying and screaming all the way. The compound had been cleared by this time, with people either surrendering or being shot and killed.
That's pretty incredible.
Yeah, what was also, what was pretty sad about it was that he grabbed a couple of his kids.
Wow.
And he blew himself up. Yeah.
That's awful. And that just goes to show the level of okay, so it's a level of depravity, but then actually as I was saying that, I had it was followed by another thought of, I think he obviously really believed in what he was doing, because I think he blew himself up to get his 50 virgins and his status and for his, whatever legacy, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, you're obviously true. So I guess the White House tweets
Donald Trump with a lengthy address to the nation.
First of all, it's there. He's just a jerk nowadays. So here's the picture here. This is the
while it was going on, I almost used this for our thumbnail, but then didn't.
Look at all the wires they got.
I was thinking the exact same
Look
thing.
like what we got going on.
They had to tear the center out of that table there for everybody to be hard-lined in to the internet. There's no Wi-Fi going on here. This is every computer and laptop has to be hard-lined in. I probably for security reasons, as well as we need real-time, whatever. But I kind of wonder, were these guys told to make this serious face?
Yeah, I'm sure.
It would have been kind of better if they had done an action shot, when nobody was looking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me get some more clips here. Let's see.
Al-Baghdadi is dead. He was the founder and leader of ISIS, the most ruthless and violent terror organization anywhere in the world. He died like a dog. He died like a coward. The world is now a much safer place. Abu.
So, yeah, he died like a coward. Let me see. I'm not sure. I went to get a couple more clips that I thought I had up. Now I can't, al-Baghdadi isn't trending. Isn't that great?
What was his name? Albert? No, it was Abu. Literally, A-B-U. Isn't that the name of the monkey in Aladdin?
Yeah.
So there you go. Britboz says, so Baghdadi's house has been redecorated in a rather fetching color of red.
Yeah. Okay. That's nice.
Jack Russell says that dog's life is worth 100 of those scum. I think even more, really. Gonzola says one of the bomb-sniffing dogs got wounded after Baghdadi activated a suicide vest in the tunnel. Well, I hope that the bomb-sniffing dog is okay.
Yeah.
Last night was a great night for the United States and for the world. A brutal killer.
No, play.
One who has caused so much hardship and death has violently been eliminated. He will never again harm another innocent
man, woman, or child.
Is that what he's about to say?
I'm muted.
He died like a coward. The world is now a much safer place.
There's another clip here I want to play for you where he talks about that nobody was injured.
I want to thank the soldiers and sailors, airmen and Marines involved in last night's operation. You are the very best there is anywhere in the world. No matter where you go, there is nobody even close. I want to thank General Mark Milley and our Joint Chiefs of Staff. And I also want to thank our professionals who work in other agencies of the United States government and were critical to the mission's unbelievable success.
Critical to the mission's success. So the media now.
I want to thank the soldiers and sailors, airmen, and Marines involved.
Nice. I do too. And we do. Thank you for your service.
Yeah.
The media is actually doing everybody a disservice right now because the thing is, why wasn't Nancy Pelosi told? Russia was told. Nobody can praise Trump. It has become a divided nation. It's become a divided world where a man who literally, as a conductor, orchestrated the violent, mutilating deaths of so many people, who displaced millions of people, who was the epicenter. Syria was the epicenter of the refugee crisis, because what they were, the reason, I have goosebumps, the reason Europe supposedly let in so many migrants was because they all lied and said they were Syrian migrants.
Sure.
What it did was you had, like, you know, a river flowing of Syrian migrants, and most of them men, seemingly. And everybody else was like, oh, we're going to go join them. We look like them.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
and they went in, and then you had, at the same time, you had this great surge from Africa. And the epicenter is ISIS in Syria. Like,
yeah.
And it started with this guy. I mean, somebody said that when Kanye dropped his album, that day that he did, it wasn't necessarily just because Kanye dropped his album, that there was a shift in the realm.
You can just call it the force.
The force. There was a shift in the force. So like my whole life, and for the past 100 years since the invention of the Federal Reserve, and when you realize that all wars are bankers' wars, when you realize that without the Federal Reserve, there really is no World War I or World War II. There really is no invasion of Vietnam. There really is no, there's no Korean War. These wars don't happen. These giant wars don't happen without these fake fiat dollars.
Sure.
Because you don't have the finances for these giant machinery. I mean, if you're going to have wars, you're going to have, you know, pistols and sabers and swords and stuff. But with the advent of the Federal Reserve, realizing that even if Henry Ford had created the car, to go from that from Model A to tank takes an inflow of fake dollars.
Yeah.
Okay? You don't have that without the fake dollars, and you also don't have the assembly lines to get people to be making these giant weapons of mass destruction.
Right.
So what I'm saying is that, you know, patriotic, I know she hammers gold and silver a lot, but if you can wrap your brain around the fact that the evil in the past 100 years literally doesn't happen without the fake fiat dollar.
Exactly.
Like, if you could go back in a time machine and you wanted to stop abortion, you wanted to stop endless wars, you wanted to stop the Democrats from being stupid, you wanted to stop kids from being brainwashed in public schools, you literally can go back.
You know what? Yeah, you can take it even further, and you could say you want to stop the degradation of the black family through the welfare system.
Yeah,
because it wouldn't. So what has happened is the welfare system has encouraged and incentivized black families to split up, fatherless homes, having lots of children out of wedlock. It has literally said, do these things, move to the inner cities, don't be married, yada yada yada. And the only way that happens,
don't live self-sustainably, don't live on the farms.
It only happens through the fake dollar.
So if you could go back and you could do one thing, if I could have a time machine the past 100 years and fix so much, the one thing, I'm kidding, there's always going to be evil, but the one thing I would do is I would make it so that there is no Federal Reserve, that those bankers, that treasonous cabal that got together on Jekyll Isle is exposed before it happens, and the nation knows, and you bring back all the information and you stop it. So, but right now we have to kind of reverse all the things that have happened bad since, you know, the rise of ISIS because of what George Bush did in Iraq, and then kind of creating this new idea of caliphate, creating the radical Islamic terrorist. We didn't really
have
have
to do it without the opioids either, though. Like the money, like the influx, like they said they're going in for weapons of mass destruction, and said we finance them. We end up giving them.
Okay, she's
weapons.
talking about Afghanistan.
I'm just saying, all in the Middle East. It all is related. You can't just say one without the other.
Right.
You know, Bush's war, which is what it was, that he created through 9/11, and I'll just say it. They can take us off our channel or whatever. But there were so many things at play right there. Okay, how is terrorism funded? How are they funded? They need lots and lots of fake U.S. dollars, oil. I mean, there's no end to it all. And it all is linked to, whether it's the poppy fields in Afghanistan, whether it's the oil in Iran, you know, whatever. That's how all of this corruption linked to the fake dollar and Bush and everything. That's what I'm saying. It's just all related.
Yeah.
For many years, long before I took office. But in my direction, as Commander-in-Chief of the United States, we obliterated his caliphate 100% in March of this year. Today's events are another reminder that we will continue to pursue the remaining ISIS terrorists to their brutal end. That also goes for other terrorist organizations. They are likewise in our sights. Baghdadi has been on the run for many years. Long.
Okay. No personnel were lost.
And
No personnel were lost in the operation, while a large number of Baghdadi's fighters and companions were killed with him. He died after running into a dead-end tunnel, whimpering and crying and screaming all the way. The compound had been cleared by this time, with people either surrendering or being shot and killed.
So this is breaking news.
It's very interesting that there were people that surrendered as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Terrorists who oppress, no personnel were lost in the operation.
You already said your turn, Trump. It's other Trump's
Terrorists
turn.
who oppress and murder innocent people should never sleep soundly, knowing that we will completely destroy them. These savage monsters will not escape their fate, and they will not escape the final judgment of God.
Wow. And that is the truth.
So, yeah, let me get to the rest of this article. President Donald Trump announced Sunday that ISIS founder and leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi has died as a result of a raid conducted by the United States Special Forces. He died like a dog. He died like a coward, Trump said this morning. The president announced the news in a statement to the nation from the White House. Trump said that al-Baghdadi detonated a suicide vest as he was trapped in a tunnel with 3 children as American forces approached.
Unbelievable.
He died running into a dead-end tunnel, whimpering and crying and screaming all the way. Shows that these cowards are truly cowards. He said that the tunnel caved in on al-Baghdadi's mutilated body, but that test results proved later that it was him. Trump said that the American Special Forces landed with 8 helicopters and blew holes into the side of the terrorist compound. He described the raid as absolutely perfect. As though you were watching a movie, he watched most of it. Trump said that no American troops were wounded. They did a lot of blasting. The president singled out American intelligence for praise. Maybe... I'm just kidding. Yeah, we've had a lot with the CIA lately.
Yeah.
We had some incredible intelligence officials that did a good job. The military operation was conducted by American Special Forces Delta Force after it was approved by Trump. according to reports, after al-Baghdadi was discovered by American intelligence in Syria's northwestern Idlib province. The al-Baghdadi first appeared in 2014, establishing the ISIS caliphate with him as the caliph. For 5 years, ISIS and al-Baghdadi inspired terrorist attacks around the world against Western forces and just regular civilians. The world has spent years trying to capture or kill al-Baghdadi, a major step in the ongoing fight against the Islamic State and radical Islamic terrorism. Trump said that he was adamant about finding al-Baghdadi as soon as he took office as president. Capturing and killing al-Baghdadi has been the top national security priority of my administration. Trump said that he did not inform Democrat congressional leaders about the Saturday raid for fear of leaks that would endanger the troops in the operation. We were going to notify them last night, but we decided not to do that because Washington leaks like I've never seen before. There is no country in the world that leaks like we do, and Washington is a leaking machine. House Leader Nancy Pelosi reacted to the news of the death by the terrorists by calling for the House to be briefed on this raid, which the Russians, but not top congressional leadership, were notified of in advance. Yeah. So, and then Fox News' Chris Wallace pressed Vice President Pence on why Donald Trump did not notify Nancy Pelosi. Pence says, I don't think, does the president not trust the Speaker of the House with sensitive national security information? Pence says, I don't think that was the implication at all. I think from the time that we got actionable intelligence, the president's total focus was on a successful mission and the safety of American troops. Well, Why not tell Nancy? We maintain the tightest possible security here, and when we got the confirmation on Saturday that al-Baghdadi was on site and our troops began to move into the region, as the president said, our aircraft were moving over some very potentially hostile areas. We wanted them to be able to get in and get out. It's a dangerous mission on the ground. They went with the resolve and the determination as president to bring al-Baghdadi to justice, but they went with our prayers, and I just couldn't be more proud. And he keeps talking about the Speaker of the House. Like, Chris Wallace is such a Democrat. It's just so disgusting.
Is there a legal precedence for him to have to do that?
No.
Or precedent, I should say?
No.
No. So you know what? I'm not going to tell this person that is literally trying to impeach me out of office something that is really important to the entire world.
Right.
No, exactly. I'm not going to tell. No, she's literally trying to impeach him. Like, no. Right. I'm sorry, no.
Exactly.
You don't just get to, like, all of a sudden, no, we need to play nice, even though we're trying to, like, and we might even be trying to kill you. Like, we don't know.
Right.
Sad day in America when the Democrats can't stand up and thank the president, thank the U.S. military for taking out the leader of ISIS last night. Now, that's a tragedy. Here's the problem, Maria. The Democrats have impeachment obsession.
Yep.
They are obsessed on one thing, and that is to remove President Trump from office. I tell you what, it's not going to happen. They're obsessed on impeaching President Trump, but we're trying to pass a defense appropriations bill to fund the U.S. military. They're obsessed on trying to impeach President Trump while we are trying to pass bills that will lower the cost of prescription drugs. They're obsessed on impeaching President Trump while we're trying to get this Mexico-Canada trade deal passed. They'll create 170,000 jobs, 70...
So, yeah, I don't want to spend too much time on American news because we are here for Euro news. But he made this... It's pretty sad when you have everybody kind of complaining about this. This should be a big thing. And then you have... I know that... I think it was the Washington Post changed their headline, so it made it look different. It made it... I'm going to see if I can find that.
Tinkerbell Bear says, you tell them, Mass Faith 3, the Dems need to do their job that they were elected to do, legislate.
Yes.
Well said.
Let's see if I can find.
Panic and dread, terrified of the American forces bearing down on him. We were in the compound for approximately 2 hours, and after the mission was accomplished, we took highly sensitive material and information from the raid, much having to do with ISIS, origins, future plans, things that we very much want. Baghdadi's demise demonstrates America's relentless pursuit of terrorist leaders and our commitment to the enduring and total defeat of ISIS and other terrorist organizations. Our reach is very long. As you know, last month we announced that we recently killed Hamza bin Laden, the very violent son of Osama bin Laden, who was saying very bad things about people, about our country, about the world. He was the heir apparent to al-Qaeda, terrorists who oppress and murder innocent people should never sleep soundly, knowing that we will completely destroy them. These savage monsters will not escape their fate, and they will not escape the final judgment of God. Baghdadi has been on the run for many years, long before I took office. But at my direction, as Commander-in-Chief of the United States, we obliterated his caliphate 100% in March of this year. Today's events are another reminder that we will continue to pursue the remaining ISIS terrorists to their brutal end. That also goes for other terrorist organizations. They are likewise in our sights. Baghdadi and the losers who worked for him, and losers they are. They had no idea what they were getting into. In some cases, they were very frightened puppies. In other cases, they were hardcore killers. But they killed many, many people. Their murder of innocent Americans, James Foley, Stephen Sotloff, Peter Kasich, and Kayla Mueller, were especially heinous. The shocking publicized murder of Jordanian pilot, a wonderful young man, spoke to the king of Jordan. They all knew him. They all loved him. He was burned alive in a cage for all to see on the execution of Christians in Libya and Egypt, as well as the genocidal mass murder of Yazidis, rank ISIS among the most depraved organizations the history of our world. The forced religious conversions, the orange suits prior to so many beheadings, all of which were openly displayed for the world to see. This was all that Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, this is what he wanted. This is what he was proud of. He was a sick and depraved man, and now he's gone. Baghdadi was vicious and violent, and he died in a vicious and violent way as a coward, running and crying. This raid was impeccable and could only have taken place with the acknowledgement and help of certain other nations and people. I want to thank the nations of Russia, Turkey, Syria, and Iraq, and I also want to thank the Syrian Kurds for certain support they were able to give us. This was a very, very dangerous mission. Thank you as well to the great intelligence professionals who helped make this very successful journey possible. I want to thank the soldiers and sailors, airmen, and Marines involved in last night's operation. You are the very best there is anywhere in the world. No matter where you go, there is nobody even close. I want to thank General Mark Milley and our Joint Chiefs of Staff. And I also want to thank our professionals who work in other agencies of the United States.
All right, guys. So there you have that. Something none of us really expected. I know we saw pieces of it last night. And I don't know if you guys heard about it, but we heard about it right before actually we went to bed last night. So I wanted to go to this straight from that because since 2017, British police have foiled 24 terrorist plots. London's Metropolitan Police Force says it has foiled 24 terrorist plots over the past 2 years. Radical Islamic terrorism remains the most significant threat. Cressida Dick, the Metropolitan Police Commissioner, said that the investigators had foiled 24 terror plots since the Islamic State, the ISIS-inspired 2017 Westminster Bridge attack carried out by the Masood, which left dozens injured and 5 dead.
Mossad?
No, that's Masood.
Oh, Masood, different. Okay, that's a person.
Massad's Israel's.
I was like, wait a minute. Well, you said, okay, go ahead.
All right. 16 of the 24 plots were connected to radical Islam. The extreme right groups hatched the remaining 8. Miss Dick said that in comments reported by the Manchester Evening News in September, Neil Basu, Britain's top anti-terror police officer, said that the foiled terror plots had risen from 19 to 22, of which 15 were Islamist inspired. This suggests that the police have prevented 2 terror plots over the past month, one Islamist and one far right, whichever that means. Mr. Basu went on to say, despite the increases, right-wing terrorism remains a relatively small percentage of the overall demand, and that the biggest threat facing the country still comes from jihadists. Radical Islamic terrorism remains a significant problem across Europe as well. Last week, it was revealed that authorities in France had arrested a man for plotting a September 11th style hijacking, according to the La Parisien. The attack was foiled just before a Muslim man stabbed 4 people to death in an attack at the Paris police headquarters. France's Interior Minister Christopher Castaner said that the foiled September 11th style attack was the 60th terrorist plot that had been foiled by French police since 2013.
Wow.
A report earlier this year, the Black and White Book of Terrorism in Europe, found that radical Islam accounted for 91% of all European terror victims. The report found that between 2000 and 2018, a total of 753 people have been killed in terror attacks in the European Union. Most of those were in, numbers less than 10 or less than 5, so that's a lot of attacks. Mm-hmm. The United Kingdom's domestic counterintelligence agency, MI5, lists the current threat level of a terrorist attack as severe, meaning an attack is highly likely. So, this is all connected to the guy that was just taken out last night.
Abu.
Baghdadi.
So sometimes when you're reading and I'm not exactly listening all the way and the word doesn't sound right, I just say the first word that comes to mind.
I know you do. It's okay. Maybe you work or not. It's okay. It's fine. So here we have in this article the flip side of what happens when you have the terror and you have the refugees and things like that. So now you have, again, the UN flies the first EU-funded plane loads of Somalis, Syrians to Germany and Romania. The UN Migration Agency, International Organization for Migration, the IOM, has hailed the arrival of its first plane load of 154 Somali migrants to Germany, along with dozens of Syrians transported to Romania using EU funds. The IMO, which promotes mass migration as inevitable, desirable, and necessary, announced the arrival of its first international charter flight of 154 Somalis from Ethiopia to Germany, with an additional 220 refugees to depart for Germany on a second IOM chartered flight in mid-November. We are happy that refugees enjoy this facilitated charter flight from departure to destination with no hassles faced. For the past 15 years, IOM Ethiopia has been involved in relocating refugees to more than 16 countries, including the USA, Canada, Australia, Norway, European Union, through resettlement, family reunification, and humanitarian mission programs. This is it's happened. Here we have the resettlement program into Germany.
So, I mean, here's the good news for these did I just say terrorists? I meant migrants. I really meant migrants. That was not even a slip of the tongue. Maybe a Freudian one.
Yeah.
Here's the good news. Like, they don't have to go through, I mean, imagine now you get probably a free flight. You don't have to have people chasing you down or telling you can't come. I mean, you're literally welcomed. Maybe you even get like a little folder, like a welcome packet with like little extra doodads and stuff, like a special bag, like when you go on a cruise and stuff.
Yeah, this is the EU financed program and Asylum Migration Integration Fund, lending credibility to the warnings of migration skeptics while Hungarian Viktor Orban, that the EU establishment is seeking to solve the issue of illegal mass migration, not by putting an end to the mass movement of peoples into Western countries, but by regularizing it through established legal routes. The EU and the UN are serious about legalizing illegal immigration, contrary to the will of the people, he says. I think that's the key there. They want to legalize the illegal immigration of people, not realizing that Africa is a pretty darn big continent, and if you want to fix problems, why don't we fix them there? Why are you bringing people into... you want to see another map? Okay, seriously. Africa, big... European Union nations not as big. You know what I'm saying? Why are you bringing, if anything, you should be taking people from Europe to Africa, but they didn't like that so well. South Africans are pretty upset about that.
Oh.
Okay, Michelle's going to bring up a world map. We're going to look at a world map here for everybody who needs some help.
They're all on Amazon, so this is not helping me with the images here.
Okay. So my point is, you guys know that Africa is huge, and the fact that you're bringing in refugees from this giant continent into Europe literally does not make mental sense.
There we go.
Okay.
All right.
Now, come on, you guys, come on.
Here, I got the map here. I got your map.
Okay.
I got your map here. Let's make us small. Oops.
No, it's fine. People can see it.
Okay.
Just take a second and look at Africa and then look at Europe. Why are we bringing people from Africa into Europe? It literally doesn't make sense. It literally doesn't make sense. Okay, and I'm not... it just doesn't make sense.
Here's my mouse pointer. Okay, so this is Africa.
Michelle.
I want people to understand this is Africa. All right, so they can't see it because it's probably really small. So here we have Spain and France. Here's the United Kingdom. Here's Ireland. Here's Germany. So this tiny little green thing right there, Germany. All of Africa. Germany, that's where they're going. All of these people are going to come and live. They're going to live right here. All of them. Every single one of them right here. They're going to leave this continent, and then we'll all migrate there and farm. And they're all going to go right into that little spot right there.
And here is the... Okay, you bring us big in. Here's the racism of it all. You ready?
Okay.
It's okay to say that Africans need to come into Europe, but it's racism to say that Europeans could go into Africa and fix Africa, go and live there.
Mm-hmm.
Like it, like what they did. You know what Europeans did to South Africa? They created giant farms. It was basically a virtual paradise, bread baskets.
Right.
Same thing happened in Zimbabwe. European settlers thought, well, you know what? We need some land. Africa's big.
Yeah.
Africa's big. To say that the white people are taking too much land in Africa, is this a joke?
They're not allowed to go there at all, though. They're literally not allowed to go at all.
But everybody can come into America, no problems. And everybody can come into Europe, no problems. Europe, small, Africa big. If you want to fix Africans' problems, you need Western ideals, and it has nothing to do with whiteness. It's Western Christian ideals, okay? And there are a lot of problems because you have a lot of witchcraft and a lot of people. There's a lot of hatred, and people don't understand.
I always kind of give kudos to the people that went to South Africa. Because it's I wouldn't want to go. I mean, just because of the
it's so far away. It's so stark. It's you're going into a wilderness, and they created. Here's the thing. What did you say? Or was it you or Mom?
If it was smart, it was me.
You were reading something.
Actually,
when it talks about migration into the United States. You cannot compare people who left everything they had to go into a vast wilderness and create a giant sustainable, they call it industrial civilization society, industrial society,
to the illegals that are trying to come over and get free welfare and free education and free health care.
So you can't compare
the saying is, well, but America is founded on migrants and yada yada yada, and so everybody should be allowed to come in. But when our forefathers came, a lot of them, they had nothing
But the shirt on their
but
back.
the shirt on their backs. And so they had to work. Now, all of these people want to come and reap from that. You know,
so the best thing to do if you're going to do anything is to send Western ideals, and that's called colonization. They don't like that.
Yeah.
Okay, isn't that, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, that's called colonization. They don't want that anymore. So now they want
Yeah.
this reverse colonization, and it's just messed up.
Tinkerbell says America and Canada were built on Western Christian ideals, and that's why it thrived and was the quickest development of any country. And look what's happening when people try to remove that.
Right. Okay, so in Britain, we have another Asian gang, rape gang. Another tranche of grooming gang rapists operating in Huddersfield, West Yorkshire, have been convicted at Leeds Crown Court. It looks like a guy, 36, I don't need to read off their names, 31. Three other men from Huddersfield, aged 38, 32, 32, who cannot be named for legal reasons, were found guilty of 1 count of attempted rape, 1 count of rape, and 4 counts of rape and 1 count of rape of a girl under 13. Detective Chief Inspector Richard McNamara of Kirklees District Safeguarding Unit said the men were responsible for depraved and heinous crimes, having purposefully and repeatedly targeted and abused 3 vulnerable young girls for their own sexual gratification. The victims were between 12 to 16.
That's really
Grooming
disturbing.
gangs have targeted thousands of vulnerable girls and young women. We talked about that, and that is this is a huge problem. And these aren't even, hey, Neebs. Hi, Nemo.
Where Nemo?
Let down, Neebs. He's having a good time running around outside. I hate to keep talking about these grooming gangs. It's almost like, oh, we're just going to wash right over this story. But let's give a moment to say, we need Tommy Robinson back.
Yeah.
He's out of jail. I haven't heard much from him. I don't know what's going on with Tommy right now.
Well, he had another court hearing, a couple of weeks ago or something?
that was with the soccer,
Yeah.
with the football.
I don't know whatever happened to that.
So I don't either. If you guys have any updates on Tommy, let me know. But Tommy used to be our go-to guy to tell us what was going on.
Right.
To make a big deal out of it and a big stink out of it, like it should be. Another set of guys found guilty, and guess what, guys? You see that little article? And Tommy would go in and figure out what they did and tell us the specifics.
Sure.
Because when you just say heinous crimes, they did bad things.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't get under your skin. Okay. Well, hey, how about the guys who turned girls into kebabs and cooked them and fed them to people? How about the guys who went and burned down a girl's house and her parents' house? How about the mutilating of these girls and just the ISIS style things that these guys did, you know, from Afghanistan? Oh my goodness! Well, they weren't even ISIS, but they acted like it, right? And doing that, the UK is so afraid that you will look at everybody who's of Middle Eastern descent or look Asian, and you'll see them as a rape gang, person.
Right.
So
Jack Russell says a white South African woman phoned into Nigel's show this morning. The black Africans think this is the land of milk and honey where everything is free. And they're actually not wrong about that. I mean, that's why, when I feed my bees, which I do, when it's necessary, sugar water, and I put certain essential oils that are in there and it's really strong, when I use like a diffuser in the house and the door is open and they smell the essential oils, they kind of like want to come. And so I have trained my bees to come to the scent because they know that food is going to be there. And it's like, if you don't want them to continue to come, then you stop putting out the food.
Right. Yeah. And so this is a big, a huge story that you guys, a lot of you worth a look, and Barry sent me links to. Speaking of people wanting to come. 39 people were found dead inside a lorry, which is a truck, in a people smuggling, a huge, horrible thing gone.
Fleeting seconds after 1 o'clock in the morning. Caught for a few fleeting seconds after 1 o'clock in the morning. This was the distinctive red and white lorry as it passed through an industrial estate in Thurrock, Essex. A few hundred metres later, the driver turned left into Eastern Avenue and parked up. Less than half an hour later, an ambulance was called after the grim discovery of 39 bodies in the lorry's trailer, including one teenager.
I'm curious.
Today, forensic officers were continuing their examination of the scene. The 25-year-old driver has been arrested on suspicion of murder.
This is an absolute tragedy and very sad day for Essex Police and the local community. We will continue to work alongside many other partner agencies to find out what led to these deaths.
For most of the day, the street on which the lorry was parked was sealed off. Red Cross vehicles were seen entering the cordon as detectives and forensic experts continued a meticulous examination of the scene in an effort to find clues. For a few seconds, the inside of the trailer could be glimpsed, the full horror of its contents shielded from view. The identities of the poor souls inside is unknown at the moment, but the news was still upsetting enough to prompt local people to pay tribute to those who died in the most horrendous of circumstances.
I came to lay flowers today because I feel deeply taken aback and shocked by what's happened here today, and I feel like these people deserve dignity and respect.
It's understood the lorry driver is Mo Robinson from Portadown in County Armagh. It's believed the cab was driven through Holyhead in North Wales on Saturday, and the container was collected at Purfleet early this morning. Today, the Prime Minister updated the House of Commons on the investigation.
This is an unimaginable tragedy and truly heartbreaking. I know that the thoughts and prayers of all members are with those who lost their lives and their loved ones. I'm receiving regular updates, and the Home Office will work closely with Essex Police as we establish exactly what has happened.
The lorry and the trailer, which still contains the 39 bodies, is now being moved to a secure location at Tilbury Docks, where the grim task of identifying the victims will begin. The focus will now be on tracing the route of the container and pinning down precisely where and how the people managed to get inside on a journey that ended in such tragedy.
So they were in the lorry, the big truck, and we call them semis here in the States. And do you think they ran out of air? Do you think it got too hot?
Yeah.
Were they all dead? Was there anyone left alive? Obviously, if there was anyone left alive, they would tell you, right?
UK police in Essex say all of the 39 victims found dead in the truck contained in southeastern England are now out of the truck and in a mortuary awaiting autopsies. But Detective Chief Inspector Martin Passmore says the victims have not been identified and very few documents were found with the bodies. He met Saturday with the Vietnamese. Supposedly they were Vietnamese, by the way.
Okay.
Ambassador amid reports on social media that many of the victims were from the South Asian country. Passmore again appealed to those who might have information on the victims to help with the inquiries. 4 people have been arrested so far in the case, one of Britain's deadliest smuggling disasters. Vietnamese families are mourning lost children, desperately seeking information about the 39 who died in the back of a sealed truck in southeastern England this week, even as British officials struggled to identify victims whose identities were obscured by the people smugglers who led them to their deaths. Police in Britain are questioning 4 people in connection with the tragedy as they grapple with one of the deadliest cases of trafficking ever reported in the country. In an effort to treat the victims with respect and preserve evidence, authorities are slowly transferring the bodies from the truck to a hospital mortuary where the process of identification will take place. But the task is likely to be difficult. People smugglers normally take the passports of their passengers to obscure their identities, stripping them of their names and giving them new documents when they arrive at their destinations. Police initially believed the victims were Chinese, but later acknowledged that the details were still evolving. Attention shifted to Vietnam after the family of a 26-year-old Vietnamese woman released text messages suggesting she had suffocated in the truck.
Suffocated, so yeah, that's awful.
Yeah.
Of my clients end up in debts from loan sharks or snakeheads in China. They accrue vast amounts of debts, and then the snakeheads will exploit that because they're not going to be able to pay that debt back. They then tell them that there's an offer of a job abroad. They don't always know that it's going to be the UK. The snakehead will sort out the visa for them, and they'll end up in the UK. Majority of the time, yes, these women agree to go to another country, but that's because they're from rural, poor villages. You know, they don't know any different. They're offered vast amounts of money. They take the offer up. They then can't pay it back. They arrive in the UK, and that's where they become victims of trafficking because they're sexually exploited. They're working in massage parlours, brothels, restaurants, most of the time not paid. They're locked up for months or years on end before any help is sort of found.
What kind of lies are they told, though? Like, to get them, you know, and it's so sad to imagine somebody...
You do hear about the lies happening a lot in Asian countries, and you look at a lot of these Asian women, there's these weird massage parlors, sex trafficking, and this appears to be a female trafficking unit of 39 women being killed and suffocated to death. Not your average.
Well, and it kind of makes you wonder. It's like, okay, I'm sure 39 of these female souls are very valuable, monetarily speaking. And so I think it goes to show again, to use the word depravity, the depravity of these traffickers, where you would just think like you would want to preserve what you're trying to.
And why can't the UK police trace them back if there are massage parlors? Why can't they stop it? Why can't they bring it down? Like, and I say that for American officials too. Like, you've got to be able to like.
Well, we're actually doing it under Trump. It's happening.
Here's the thing: they will arrest you for misgendering somebody.
Right.
Right now, there's a guy who is suing a guy because he is a transgender, and once the guy found out he was a man, he didn't want to have sex with him, so now the UK police are investigating it as a hate crime.
You're kidding.
No, and they're wasting that time to investigate that.
It doesn't even seem real.
So that's why they don't have time to investigate
sex trafficking.
Sex trafficking.
Wow,
yeah. Speaking of girls being hurt, thousands of girls are subjected to female genital mutilation in Ireland. An estimated 6,000 women and girls in Ireland have their genitals mutilated. Experts warn that another 3,000 girls are currently at risk of being subjected to FGM. At a conference in Dublin, activists gathered to decry the practice of FGM and called for a national plan of action. The journal reports that Senator Ivanka Bajek, who helped craft Ireland's anti-FGM legislation, said that the practices should be treated as a serious form of child abuse. FGM, we talked about, I don't really need to go into that right now because I know it's disturbing. It can not only lead to long-term psychological and mental damage, but in some cases it's death. And a lot of these are Somalian people, and you're bringing them in, and what are you doing? Are you going to just dump the Somalis in a vat of re-education to teach them? Because you're bringing in people and they're committing these human rights violations and child abuse, and it's a disturbing trend. Instances of female genital mutilation have been recorded in 30 countries. Earlier this year in the United Kingdom, a woman from Uganda became the first person to be convicted of FGM. She was sentenced to an 11-year term for allowing the cutting of her 3-year-old daughter, leaving her with permanent physical and likely psychological damage. One of the main issues in writing the Ireland of FGM is that the mothers are often pressured by relatives to return to their country of origin to have their daughters mutilated. What we are hearing now from women is that they believe FGM is a harmful practice, and they wouldn't want it to happen to their children, but there's still a lot of pressure. They're being pressurized from where they're coming from, being told they shouldn't wait too long to have this done to their daughters. Wow. So this is what happens when you bring in a cross-cultural craziness. Speaking of craziness, Oxford University is supposed to be the bastion of thought, free thinking, where great ideas have emerged. Oxford University bans clapping to keep people from being triggered. Student union representatives at the Oxford University passed a motion this week to ban clapping and replace it with silent jazz hands instead of applause, which could trigger anxiety. The motion to mandate and the encouragement of silent clapping proposed using the more inclusive British Sign Language symbol for clapping, known as the silent jazz hands, waving both hands by the sides of the body at about shoulder height in place of audible applause. The clapping ban would affect student union meetings and events where traditional clapping and cheering presents an access issue to those with anxiety disorders. Officers at the student union contended that traditional applause, whooping, foot stomping, and other loud noises presenting an access issue for some disabled students who have anxiety disorder, sensory sensitivity, and those who use hearing aids. Sabbatical officer Rosen McCallum says the change is specifically aimed at making events more inclusive and accessible to all. The policy was proposed in order to encourage the use of British Sign Language clapping during democratic events and to make those events more accessible and inclusive for all. One former student told the Daily Mail that despite Oxford's good intentions and desire to be accommodating for students with accessibility issues, the idea will not work and is completely ludicrous. The move away from clapping at Oxford follows a similar motion passed at the University of Manchester in September of last year.
Look what Boss Torres says. That's horrible. How will blind people know what's going on?
That's really funny. Oh my gosh.
I could not agree more, actually.
That is really
I mean, what
funny.
would be, why do we have to create these bans, right? So even if they have a point, because I do have a sensitive ear, like when we went to the Trump rally, it really was painful. I should have brought hearing protection. I didn't. It was so loud. It was really, really painful.
Yeah.
But I get that there are people that have legitimate problems, okay? Like, especially when they mentioned the hearing aid thing. And the anxiety thing, it's kind of like, I don't know, that's just, people with anxiety have anxiety wherever they go.
Right.
But what would be so wrong with just telling people to be considerate and having, like, a quiet clap and don't get, like, out of control? Instead of a ban, just tell people to try to be considerate. Like, I mean, I don't understand why that is so difficult.
I don't know.
Just to be... Like, hey, just be considerate. There's some people that have hearing aids. If you want to quietly clap or give an amen. Amen.
I say, you know what? Unfortunately, we can't live all of our lives with, Suddenly, don't eat. Somebody's afraid of, somebody's allergic to.
Well, okay, so yeah, like, I'm never going to eat peanuts in public because there are so many people that have peanut allergies. And if they see me eating a peanut, they could blow up and I could be responsible for their death.
Yeah. 50th straight week of protests. Yellow vests here clashing with police. Khan obviously does not have a hold of his country. Somebody there with some Viking horns. I can't believe that this is France. I mean, there's just kind of just like a lot of turmoil in the air, I think, worldwide. People are trying to revolt against their masters, and a lot of this has to do, in my opinion, with socialist policies. When you're reliant on the government for, maybe keeping gas prices at a certain level, for your pension, for your medical, when you're relying on the government rather than your own two hands, then you do riot, because that's...
If you want more, you have to demand it.
And you have to demand it by physical force. There was riots, protests today in Germany over some ecological issues. Farmers were protesting. They weren't allowed to use certain chemicals anymore.
They stifle ambition, and they stifle creativity, and they stifle innovation, because everybody understands, if I work harder and I earn more, I just have to give more to the government, so what's the point?
Right. You're absolutely right. And when you're just a free person and everything is by the sweat of your own brow, there's nobody to revolt against.
Right.
There's nobody to riot against. We had a Revolutionary War. Do you realize why we had a Revolutionary War? To get the government out of our lives.
Yeah.
To get the government, we had a Revolutionary War, and that's why ours was righteous. Because we wanted the government out of our lives.
And it is unfortunate, actually, for these people, even though my heart does go out to them, and they are doing the right thing, mostly. But at the same time, you had a democracy that you voted in these socialist policies. Now, perhaps these people that are protesting are the ones that didn't. I don't know.
So I'm going to play this in the background. This is like pro-independence Barcelona.
Because I would hate for somebody to say here, like in the United States, if socialist policies were voted in, that it's not every American that voted them in. So but at the same time, as a society, socialism was democratically voted in. And, communism is, all these things are usually actually voted in, or by after a revolution or an overthrow or something like that. And it's like taking from everybody to redistribute it just doesn't work.
Right.
And they're finding that out now. But I guarantee you that a lot of these people that are protesting are not going to turn, just 100% capitalist overnight. They're still going to want handouts from the government. They just want their handouts, and they don't want the government to take so much from them. And so it's just...
You're always going to have this push and shove with a socialist government.
Yeah. It's difficult. And that's why we are libertarians. Mostly, by and large.
So these were that was in Barcelona with the pro-independence. The police forces clashed with members of pro-independence action group committees for the defense of Republic, the CDR, in front of the National Police Headquarters in Barcelona. But I want to give you kind of like a give you the other side of this. We're talking about the socialism. We're talking about the government. We're talking about fighting back. But why? What are you fighting back for? What? End of full-time moms. Over 75% of mothers in the UK now have to work. And, pre-World War II, very few women worked. I mean, you see
outside
of the home. Yeah. They raised their children at home. The era of the single breadwinner able to support his household on a family wage appears to be truly over in Britain. The Office of National Statistics figures indicating over 75% of mothers now have to work. Now, I know you guys talk about your NHS like it's like saving lives, but what lives is it damaging in the process? Okay? You don't have moms in homes, and it's not because women want to work. Okay? Yeah. The number of mothers in the labor market has grown substantially over the last 20 years. The ONS Bulletin explains, with the number of women with dependent children in the workplace from an already high at 66% in 2000 to 75% in June of 2019. In 2019, 3/4 of mothers with dependent children were in work, up from 2/3 of mothers at the start of the century. Let's see, fewer than 3 in 10, 28% of mothers chose even to reduce their working hours after having children, although it seems likely that many more of them felt such a choice was not open to them for financial reasons. Full-time motherhood may have collapsed partly because it is strongly disincentivized in the British tax system. So here we have again, the government in all its whimsy, in all its intelligence. When you use money, and especially taxes, you will herd people in down to different tubes, and they'll do it for $100. They'll do it for $200, Bob. People will do it for they'll do it for $20. If you continue to, you can incentivize people into certain things. Stay-at-home moms cannot transfer their income tax-free personal allowance to their partner. You guys tell me what this is. I don't know about this personal allowance to their partner, and the only state support they receive is a limited amount of free or subsidized childcare. Stay-at-home moms, the only thing that they get from their state is free or subsidized childcare, but they're stay-at-home moms, so they don't need that. So why not incentivize it another way? Because you're going to be paying for it. It just, you know what I mean? Standard childcare benefits payments for their first 2 children and the national insurance credits until their youngest child turns 12. Britons need 35 full years of national insurance credits to receive the maximum state pension of £168 per week once they reach the state pension age of currently 66. $168 per week, and you have to work 35 full years for that?
Wow.
That's a joke.
Well, it's not dollars, it's pounds.
Well,
so it's a little bit more.
It's a little bit more. Okay, $200, you get $800 a month, basically. Working mothers, on the other hand, can be rewarded for their lifestyle with tax credits on top of their personal allowance and child benefit payments, and many more hours of free or subsidized childcare. The British approach contrasts strongly, and this is definitely, this is the antithesis to Margaret Thatcher, because I've heard her speeches on how the country to be strong needs stay-at-home moms. Mm-hmm. She was a conservative in the sense of morality and strong families, and she's what help make your country so great. I mean, she spoke out against feminism. She wanted women to be smart and to be strong, but she also knew that these younger ages, kids needed their mums at home.
Right.
This is in stark contrast to what you see in Hungary and Poland, who are now using, and in Italy, who are now using incentives to for moms to stay at home. It's like total reverse. Like if you stay at home and you have so many kids, right? You can have
house
loans, free loans, and your student loans paid off and things like that. To show gratitude to the mothers and grandmothers who have devoted their lives to bringing up children. All this, a lot of this has to do with like good food and healthy atmospheres and things like that. Europe is at a crossroads. Western Europe seeks to address the problem of demography with simple solutions, which only offer short-term success but convey catastrophic consequences in the long term, says a Hungarian spokesperson. Hungary has a long-term approach that opts for a more difficult path, encouraging births by placing the interests of families in the focus of politics rather than even further flows of migration. So you have this total contrast where you have in the UK such a focus on transgenderism and gender ideology and turning kids into boys into girls and boys into girls, and Hungary and Poland, like, let's just make families great again.
Yeah.
So on to, I don't know if people had comments. We're just kind of talking and talking and talking.
Not really.
Okay. All right. That's fine. Nigel here is going to explain what's happening with Brexit. Is this the death of Brexit? I'm going to spoil his punchline. It is not the death of Brexit. I'm going to spoil it a second time. He says this is actually the best thing. What's going to happen, hopefully, is giving, hopefully, a chance of a breather, because Boris Johnson's, well, let me just let him tell you.
This is great.
I headed off to Strasbourg again this week. I think it's about my 240th visit since I got elected there 20 years ago. And I suppose in some ways I was full of anticipation because we knew the big vote was going to take place in the House of Commons on the new EU treaty that Boris had negotiated a few days before, and quite a lot of speculation that it might just get through Parliament. Now, I, of course, was hoping that it wouldn't, because it is not a great new deal, as Boris says. It's actually a very bad old treaty. Anyhow, we arrived in Strasbourg and we had a big debate on Tuesday morning, headed up by Jean-Claude Juncker, who, of course, has been the boss of the European Commission for the last 5 years, famous for his long lunches and louche lifestyle. Actually, on a personal level, I find him quite fun. You can like people that you disagree with. So it was Juncker's finale, his farewell. So I went to say goodbye to him. And he's always very civil, always very funny, always very charming. I said, so Jean-Claude, I said, nearly 20 years as Prime Minister of Luxembourg, 5 years as boss of the EU. Is this retirement? No, he said. I'm going to write a book about you, which I thought was really quite fun. So Juncker gone, but another personnel change that really matters, it's that man, Michel Barnier, our torturer over the course of the last 3.5 nearly years, the EU's chief negotiator, and his work was done because the treaty, the withdrawal treaty with the attached political declaration, that was Barnier's work. And Boris Johnson had agreed to it, just of course as Theresa May had agreed before. And that was to be it. However, now they've announced that Michel Barnier has been reappointed for the next phase of the negotiations. And I think one of the things people just don't quite get is when Boris says, please pass this for me, we'll get Brexit done, it's not true. All that does, that's the first stage of this over. The next part is the negotiation of a free trade agreement. How long will it last? Well, Michel Barnier, shortly after his reappointment, said the free trade talks will go on for 3 years or longer. That's right. We've just been through 3 years of agony. Yeah. It's going to go on for 3 years or for longer. So you pays your money, you takes your choice. Either you believe Boris that this gets Brexit done, or you believe Michel Barnier that it will be at least another 3 years. So I spoke in the debate. And I did sort of tease them by saying, would this be the last time I'd speak to them in 20 years? Have a look.
Well, after 3 agonising years of negotiations, Michel Barnier gets Boris Johnson to sign us up to a brand new treaty, which guarantees 3 more years of agonising negotiations and, frankly, reduces the United Kingdom to the status of a colony of the European Union. And why is Boris doing it? He's doing it because he doesn't want extension. He's doing it because he knows that extension damages the Conservative Party in the polls. So he wants to bounce us in to this new treaty before we wake up. It's the same story every time. It's about the Tory party, not about the country. And what we need is to build a Leave alliance of those across the political spectrum to fight and win the next general election. The only way we can leave this place is with a clean break Brexit. I would like to think, like Mr. Juncker, that this is my last speech here in 20 years, but somehow I've got the feeling, I'm sorry, I'd love it to be,
Would you let them finish
you'd love
his
it to be,
colleagues,
but I have
please.
a feeling we'll be back in November.
They were trying to shut up, they're laughing.
And yeah, here's the point. Actually, what was happening after that Thursday night meeting in Brussels, over the weekend and into this week, we saw Conservative members of Parliament, ERG members, people who are, I think, as Eurosceptic as I am, saying, yep, we are going to vote for it. Going to vote for it, despite the fact they hadn't even read the blooming thing, that few of them knew what the content was. But it was mainly being done about bringing the Conservative Party together. That classic moment that we see in British politics where party and career come above conviction and country. Well, dramatic moments, of course, that evening in the House of Commons, and I wonder whether it would pass. I wonder whether the final vote would take place on Wednesday or Thursday in Strasbourg, because it's the European Parliament in the end that has sign off on this. And Boris got a majority. He got a majority. The 4th time the withdrawal agreement was put to Parliament, he gets a majority. He gets it because, as I say, the ERG members vote for something that they don't understand or believe in, and cynically, quite a lot of Labour MPs, 19 of them, vote for it so that they can say to their Leave constituencies, particularly in the North and South Wales and places like that, look, I tried, I did my best. So that little moment of victory with Boris Johnson, but it didn't last long, because then there was a procedural motion about how long this should be scrutinised for, and on that the Prime Minister failed. You see, what he was trying to do was to bounce the country, bounce Parliament into accepting that he'd got a great victory. Sure, he got rid of the backstop. Yeah, okay, the commitment for the whole of GB to stay in the customs union was gone, but Northern Ireland had been sacrificed, along with our fishing industry and full regulatory alignment that would mean basically that everything from financial services to fisheries, they would make the laws for us for the next few years. And far from getting Brexit done, had it gone through, if it goes through, I think it's actually the death of Brexit, and I'll tell you why. Trapped for 3 years or longer, inside a regime where they make the laws on everything, we have to accept it all, and we have no voice, no vote, no veto. I think in those circumstances, the demands for a second referendum would get louder and louder, and they actually would have a point, wouldn't they? You know, why shouldn't we have a say over these things? Why should we have effectively taxation without representation? Well, it didn't get through. We didn't get the final vote in Strasbourg. We're now in limbo, or as Jacob Rees-Mogg calls it, purgatory. Now, this is a term, of course, that is very powerful in the Roman Catholic Church. Whether it was done to enrage the Protestant Unionists of the DUP even more, I don't know, because it had been a very tough week for them. Extraordinarily, even the Prime Minister didn't seem to have a grasp over the detail of what he'd agreed when he falsely in the Commons got an answer wrong. The truth of it is, under this deal, for somebody to export from Northern Ireland to the rest of the United Kingdom would mean filling in customs declaration forms, and Boris somehow seemed to have missed this.
Oops.
So now we have a pause. We have Jacob Rees-Mogg's purgatory. It's been announced that next week there'll be no parliamentary business on either a forthcoming general election or indeed on Brexit itself. There's going to be a pause. And I think into that space, I'm really hoping something useful might happen.
Hope in the space.
I think
This
that
is
the
a
withdrawal
space of
agreement
hope.
and the attached political declaration, I think it's going to be a little bit like a nice piece of cheese. You've got it out of the fridge, you've put it on the table, it's really appetizing, it's new, it looks great. And then what happens is if it stays out of the fridge too long, it starts to smell. It starts to become inedible. And I think as much sunlight as we can shed on Boris's, I quote, Great New Deal, the more likelihood there is that people say, well, I didn't know that. I didn't understand that. And even the understanding that a transition period that can go on to the end of 2022 means that our estimated cost of leaving, which started off, if you remember, at 39 billion, now goes up to about 65 billion, and there'll be fact after fact that comes out. So I'm actually grateful. I genuinely think if this had passed, it would have been the death of Brexit, not the making of it. We've got a chance now to have a proper debate. And I also think the chances now of a general election happening are very limited indeed. Why? Well, because those joint geniuses, Cameron and Clegg, left us with this Fixed Term Parliaments Act. It needs 2/3 of the House of Commons to vote to have a general election, and Labour are in such a mess. Labour are doing so badly that Corbyn, at least Corbyn's party, can't possibly agree to an election in which lots of them would actually lose their seats. So I don't think that's going to happen.
Hit the road,
so it looks
Jack.
like the can has been kicked down the road in every sense. We await the announcement from the EU as to what extension we're going to be given. And I guess it's going to be until the end of January. Don't know the facts on that yet, but it'll be until the end of January. And I think, oddly, we're going to go on now, perhaps for some time, with a government that's in a minority position, that can't get any legislation through, a complete zombie parliament, confidence in this country in terms of our politicians, the whole system, pretty close to the verge of collapse. And yet, we're just going to limp on. I don't think the general election now can come, probably until next spring. Now, of course, making these predictions is dangerous, although Adam Bolton on Sky News this week did call me Mystic Nigel, which I thought actually was quite a compliment.
That's
so
hilarious.
I'm actually breathing a sigh of relief. I can't thank Sir Oliver Letwin for his amendment, or John Bercow for playing the games they played. I can't thank either of them. I can't bring myself to do it. But the fact we have now got some time to pause and reflect ahead in a new direction, I think that's very positive. I think it's very good.
That's
We've
really
got a chance.
good
I think
interpretation.
at that general election, Boris can also drop the treaty, drop the withdrawal agreement, press the reset button, start again, try to build a Leave alliance, because that would win a general election. It would win it well, and we'd be there as the Brexit Party, helping, working with them, making that happen. We already know that the Liberal Democrats couldn't care less how you vote. You know, they want to revoke Article 50. The Labour Party now want a second referendum with a completely and utterly false choice. The Conservative Party want to bind us into something that will keep us trapped for years and would probably lead to a referendum in which people would vote to rejoin. The Brexit Party's position is the right one. It's quite simple, really. Either you stay or you leave, and I think we should leave. And many of you think we should leave. And if we can drag, kicking and screaming, the Conservative Prime Minister to that position, then we will properly get Brexit done.
Wasn't that just amazing? Like, I could have just talked to you guys and yabbered on about what's happening with Brexit, but
it is far better to have Nigel.
Nigel explained it so well, and you know, he is the eternal optimist, and
he does a great job of keeping spirits up, because he understands that when morale goes down, you start to lose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that maybe he's not the mystic. I do believe that he is anointed by God and led by God to make Britain great again, and to get you out of this European Union where we kind of have all these convoluted laws and socialist principles which stifle creativity, stifle individuality, stifle free will and liberty and things like that.
Yes, they do.
So, but to have a guy like Nigel who, is so much different. He's so different than everybody else.
So much different.
Well, I wanted to say he's so much like Donald Trump, but he's really not. But what I meant to say is that he is like Donald Trump in that he's different. Yeah. He's like Donald Trump in that the hits that come at him seem to make him stronger. And I'm not like that. I wish I were like that. There are very few special people out there who remain an optimist, who can take and be fueled by, and I pray that maybe one day I will be. I mean, I think Jesus kind of was. It obviously is. But Nigel takes the hits, right, and he stays positive, at least on the, at least the face of it, which is what people see, which is what keeps people positive. I mean, if it wasn't for Nigel, you guys would be stuck in the European Union. You'd probably have a second referendum, and you would just, I don't even know what would happen. You may not even have a second referendum. And that even if you did have a second referendum and people voted to leave again, it would still be in limbo and you'd never leave.
Right.
So Nigel is not necessarily your savior, but he is definitely your hero of the day.
Sure.
Okay.
Let me read some comments. So on Periscope, we have Nigel's right. The term purgatory is also calculated to agitate Protestants versus Catholics. Mm-hmm. And on YouTube, we had some good comments here. Let's see. ID for voters has to happen or the general election will be a farce, says Stuart the Brit. Expose You Now says Labor are toxic. Get rid of them once and for all. Stuart the Brit says $1 billion a month out of our pockets to the EU. And Jack Russell says he hopes that if there is a zombie apocalypse that they all look like you. Let's see. Abominable Snowman says we're liable to cover the ECB if the euro goes into meltdown. We're expected to cough up $500 billion to shore it up again. Expose You Now says Farage, we love you, man. Wicked Psyched says, why doesn't England just leave on their own? Let the other countries in Britain make their own decision. It doesn't work that way. Like, it's just totally impossible for that to happen. But what is actually interesting about that statement is that Boris's deal tried to leave Northern Ireland behind. You don't. You got to stick together. That's the whole point of the United Kingdom. Stuart the Brit says the Remainer have actually helped this country away from this terrible treaty. Thanks, dummies. So I guess it's kind of a good point. Adeline wants to know, does this mean that Boris is actually a Remainer who hoodwinked the population of the UK?
No.
Boris has been Leave from the beginning. I think, kind of like Nigel said, he didn't really read it. I think he's just kind of relying on those around him, telling them that it was a good deal. And I don't know why he's so dead set against. I think
Boris,
he does. He's kind of chummy with some of the people in the EU.
He's the quintessential politician in that, like, he kind of just wants everybody to get along. Like, he says things, he wants to be funny, but he's not a real deep thinker.
He's funny,
but he's not a deep thinker.
So Jack Russell says, fancy spending 25 years of your life fighting the EU. That's incredible to me. Nom Nom says, have to agree to disagree on that one with something I think that Hilton had said. I don't know what that was, but the rest of the comment says, the Tories are the only party representing me, and I used to vote Labour. That's really interesting. Let's see, Jim West, Boris deal, not perfect through transition period, but then the UK is free, take it and use it. So Jim West thinks they should take it and use it. Stuart the Brit says Boris was put there to get public attention and favor. He was always going to do a bad job. I agree. I was not for him. Jim West says the DUP must realize a dual customs union, all that is possible.
Can I say something in Boris's defense?
Okay.
He's not as dim-witted as he is smart.
Yeah.
And when I say he's not a deep thinker, I don't think he's a deep reader and things like that. I think he's kind of average intelligence. Nigel Farage is somebody with like extreme intelligence. He's a very deep thinker. He looks at all the angles. He reads documents. He's a really smart guy. But with this, Boris knows that the Conservatives are not going to, pounce on an election.
Right.
He knows the Brexit party is right there. So why does he keep calling for an election, Pat? Why does he keep calling for an election? He went to Jeremy Corbyn And he made an offer to Labour on Thursday night that in exchange for backing an election in December, he would continue the Commons debate on Brexit until November 6th. Speaking to Sky News on Friday, Mr. Johnson said, "We can have a debate on Brexit if that's what they really want, if they really think that's necessary, provided they agree to an election on December the 12th. Now, you would have thought that was a pretty good deal from the point of view of Labour Party, but they seem unaccountably split from top to bottom. We've got momentum. Who are the sort of commies who back part of the Jeremy Corbyn enterprise saying they want an election? They say bring it on. And then you've got loads of Labour MPs led by guys like Keir Starmer and Tom Watson and things who don't seem to want an election. Time for Corbyn to man up. Let's have an election on December 12th. Basically, he says even commies want an election. So there are some people in the Labour Party who are willing to risk it all, put it all on the line. But, you know...
That's a great picture of Corbyn, by the way.
Isn't that funny? I wanted to just
A
see if I
concern
can...
that a lot of new recruits have when starting out in the police is, what if I get the law wrong, or I don't know what to do?
I'm going to play this for fun at the end. I literally do not... I think, send this to me.
Of course, you can't come out and admit it on the spot, because...
But we're going to end with something funny.
...would make you look stupid. So instead, a good idea is to make an arrest, drag that person off to the cells and leave him there until you find someone that does know what they're doing.
Clueless cop accidentally
someone
records
who will
his
lie
staggering
and cover up for the
incompetence.
unlawful arrest you just made. The police are, after all, doing a very important nothing to fear. They're free of their leashes and are wandering the streets looking for someone to bite. They notice a man stood in his mum's back garden having a fag. In the same garden is a yellow child's quad bike. For whatever reason, the police contact their controller and ask if there are any such bikes registered as stolen. The controller plucks one from the nearest area. The police then telephone the owner and ask him to describe it. Yeah, it's a yellow quad bike. Wow! Just like the ones the cops have seen in the back garden. That proves it. So in they crash, barging through the gate, warrantless and clueless, insisting that the owner prove to them he isn't a criminal. Rightly so, this man takes offence to the police's jackbooted, finger-pointing invasion and refuses to surrender to an impromptu interrogation. But, as is typical of the police, they believe that the only people who have any need for civil rights are criminals.
Yeah, Roger. If I'll pass you the VIN number, would you be able to check if the vehicle is stolen?
So we're going to go and get this...
Yeah, just push it in.
There's a picture of that bike that apparently belongs to them. So
it's not that bike. Like I said, I've got proof of purchase. I checked the national database. Come back legal.
I don't think the subtitles are going to do any favors to the UK accents. So try not to pay attention there.
You're right. You're right about that.
I'm trying to search the vehicle. Struggle to find it. I'll give you a call once.
Where did you say it came from again?
Lithuanian. It's
where?
I think it's pronounced Lithuanian. It's behind, well, before you get to Edinburgh and on the side of Falkirk.
So
it doesn't run, so it's not going to be on the road.
Right. Okay.
Well, the way you come in was a little bit wrong. Not you.
So I guess they record it.
Particularly, you're supposed to open the gate, so they're obviously saying that.
Oh,
exactly.
I haven't been in Cree for a couple of days, so.
Can you not like minimise it?
Do your checks, man. Just quickly check the VIN number and I'll come back legal.
Oh, we're trying to do it.
He says check the VIN number and it will all come back legal.
Thought it'd maybe help you to speed it along a wee bit.
Yeah, I'm not really wanting to turn this off, to be honest.
Yourself?
He's a new young little cop here.
Yeah. Stuff over you. I'll search you. You have anything sharp on you?
Then they search him.
I'm arrested for not officially accused for the.
Don't destroy all the masses of evidence they're no doubt harbouring before he rushes back with his warrant. On the one hand, he could just...
So he gets the warrant, and then it turns out that he's just not... And I think that the point of this is that there are people out there there are sex trafficking. there's child rape gangs, and they spent the afternoon
right
arresting a guy for his own
quad
4-wheeler.
Right.
And I honestly think that it's just because they don't have anything better to do. They don't want to go after real crime. Like, we know for a fact, we do these articles all the time about how they, if you have something that's literally stolen,
Right.
they're not going to go after it. Like,
Right.
if somebody had called and said, hey, I just had this bike stolen, what color, and then they went looking for it, that would be great.
Well, no, I think that's what happened here, actually. Somebody had reported a yellow quad as stolen,
No,
and
that's
they
not
thought
what
this is
happened.
what it was.
No, he saw a guy just smoking around, and he said, he called, from what I understand, called on the bike. Hey, do you think this is stolen? He said, yeah, we do have one reported like that.
Okay.
And that's what's
Gotcha,
so stupid about it.
Gotcha.
Like, looking for a crime. That was what's so stupid about it.
Right. Britt Bazza, that's exactly what we call them, too. He says a VIN number is the vehicle identity number. We use the exact same language and lingo here. He says, this is why the British public have so much contempt for the British police, because of this level of incompetence. Let's see. Robert Goddard says, this is the one with the Polish guy at the end. We must have missed that part.
Okay.
Stuart the Brit says, when I have to deal with the police, I make a point of being very abusive. They back down so quickly. Bloody soy boys trying to be tough. It's laughable. Robert Goddard said they didn't even know where the VIN number was in this. So, yeah. Stephen Ainsworth says, just like a comedy Keystone Cops. Yeah, I think it's hilarious. I think it's kind of sad because, in Sweden you have these no-go zones. And I think when it comes to the police in the UK, you just have these no-go, criminal cases. Like, they don't want to investigate.
There are real bad criminals in the UK. And you got a guy with his own moped,
Right.
4-wheeler there. It's like, seriously, like, it... And I think that's because they're lazy. They don't want to, so they're just looking like they're doing something.
Right.
That might be a case if you didn't have terrorism, if you didn't have child sex trafficking, if you didn't have Vietnamese women sex trafficking, if you didn't have thefts at the wazoo, if you didn't have all the knife crime. Why aren't you just patrolling the areas where there's super high knife crime?
Yeah.
That's where you should be at. And if you, that would be a case for an earlier form of Britain, but not modern Britain. Modern Britain is a very dangerous place right now, and not all of Britain. I would say London and some of the things like that. But we love your country, and that's why we bring you guys this news. We love the United Kingdom. We love Poland. We love Spain. We love you all, and that's why we want to bring you the news where God is moving, God is changing things. Kind of, how do we sum up today, Michelle, for people?
Well, al-Baghdadi is dead. So the head of ISIS has been cut off. Who knows? It'll take a while if they are going to rally for them to rally underneath somebody else. Because he's been the head for, I don't know, a really long time. I don't know the years.
Well, it's about 2015 is when the ISIS caliphate started.
Yeah, so I mean, that's forever. In my opinion, in the history of what we're looking at right now, the things that we're currently dealing with, the problems that we have right now, I think it's far too long for a terrorist organization to have become so big and so powerful and so prevalent. Because I think back at like Saddam Hussein and others like him, and it's kind of like they were like playing at terrorism. And ISIS, they really, really meant it.
Well, when, Osama bin Laden, he, was supposedly the mastermind behind 9/11, but then he hid. And he didn't have anything going on.
Right.
Exactly. He wasn't,
Right. And so to sum up the rest of the show, to me, that's a pretty big deal with the, was it in Essex with the 39 women being sex trafficked from Vietnam? I think that's actually, it's the fact that it's come to light. It's horrible, 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 horrible what has happened to these women. But what it does, the silver lining of it, is that it shines a light on what's happening, and I'm hoping it'll open up
completely shut down.
It'll open up them kind of, hey, maybe asking the United States, how are you guys doing this? How are you accomplishing the shutting down of all this sex trafficking? Which is
we don't hide it in the news as much as y'all do. Asian gang. Okay, we're not going to tell you what happened. If Donald Trump hears about some heinous crime, he's going to tweet it out. Right? You guys we need to pray for you guys to get a bigger backbone.
Yeah.
and start
Not
calling
you,
these
our
things out.
viewers,
No,
but
no,
the
your
powers that
leaders
be.
in I mean, you do have, from what I understand, like the police force is a bumbling, fumbling, and inept. I mean,
so Britbot says that truck was a freezer truck.
Oh, well, that would be lack of oxygen then.
Yeah,
they suffocated.
Yeah, that's horrible. It's really, really awful. So we're going to sign off.
We are going to sign off.
Brexit is now continuing
Is
to
it
be
dead in the
in
waters?
limbo.
No,
it's just limboing.
Nigel saying that it's actually good that the can is kicked down the road for a little bit.
Okay, so we'll take Nigel's word for it. And
well,
it was, I was really gearing up, like for 2 months I've been gearing up, however long it's been, for the October 31st. I mean, I was planning we were going to do like a big show on our calendar
Katie
upstairs.
Hopkins kept
I
saying
drew a little British flag on the day, and I was like really wanting to make it like
Nigel
happen.
Farage did not create the Brexit Party. He
I
knew.
know.
He knew.
I know.
He
I
knew.
know. I know.
He knows there's going to be a general election.
What else was happening on the 31st? Because I remember it was two things that were going to collide. No, I can't remember. We'll bring it to you. So, I hope you guys have a wonderful week. We'll be here on the 1st, November 1st, which is Friday, for a weekly roundup, and hopefully we'll have some good news. And maybe, you never know. We've been doing more shows.
We have been doing more shows.
Patriot Gallery's been doing more shows.
Yeah.
She did her thing on rock and roll, and then Kanye came out and said the same thing. Rock and roll's of the devil.
Well, he said rap music. But
okay,
yeah.
It's the same thing. It's the same spirit behind it, really.
Well, and I wanted to point this out. And I know we're going back to Kanye because it's like on our minds, but somebody has sent me a message where they're talking about Kanye West and is it really real? And they went back to listen to his old music. It's full of F-bombs. Mm-hmm. And they listened to the new track. Totally different. That's a complete change in a person.
Right.
So, like, is there fruit? Yeah, he used to do, and so
not just that, but I never really watched Kanye interviews, but I know I've seen clips of different ones over the years. I just kind of but he would get out there and he would be so cocky and so worldly and so like
a little cocky, but he's trying to bring
in.
himself in, so it's really hilarious.
And now every single time we see him be interviewed, it's Jesus, 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 God save me, I'm set free. Jesus, God save me, I'm set free. And I'm like, and y'all people want to say that's fake? Like, there is nothing in this world outside of Jesus that would get Kanye to talk about something other than himself. It has to be real.
That is the best line ever. That is the best line ever. All right. Quantum shift happening. Praying for y'all over in the EU, in Europe, and
any updates on a Bible study? Perhaps this week, Boss Taurus. I would like to do one this week.
What can wash away my sins? Nothing but the blood of Jesus. And what can make me whole again? Nothing but the blood of Jesus. Oh, precious is the flow that makes me white as snow. No other fount I know. Nothing but the blood of Jesus.
There's more lyrics here. I don't even know those ones.
I don't know.
Those aren't the right ones.
Nope.
I'm sorry. I really tried. I pulled them up. I know this is all my hopes and fears. Somebody's really bad at these lyrics.
Maybe it's a different song.
All right.
For my part in this I see nothing but the blood of Jesus. And for my cleansing this my plea, nothing but the blood of Jesus. Oh, precious is the flow that makes me white as snow. No other fount I know. Nothing but the blood of Jesus. And this is all my hope and peace. Nothing but the blood of Jesus. And this is all my righteousness. Nothing but is the flow that makes me white as snow. No other fount I know, nothing but the blood of Jesus. All
right. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you to all of our moderators. Our show would not be the same without everybody that comes and encourages us. Please leave comments.
You are awesome.
On the videos after they finish processing, because the comments do help, and I do like to hear from you guys. We don't always get to see the comments in the live chat. I think I do a pretty good job, but Leah misses them, and Patriot Gallery misses them too. So leave your comments in the comment section at the bottom of the video. Make sure that you're subscribed. Check, because I've been having people sending me messages across the board, whether it's Bitchute or following us on Facebook or Resistance Chicks channel on YouTube or this channel or whatever. I was checking and I was unsubscribed, so double check that. Ring the bell so you get notifications as to when we're doing shows and going live. Follow us on Twitter. We're on Instagram. We have a website, resistancechicks.com. That's simple enough, where we put the latest shows, and occasionally when I have time I'll put an article out. So anything else? Oh, we have a P.O. Box, 107, Milford, Ohio, 45150. If you send us your letters, we will read them on air. Anything else, Leah?
No, I'm just going over the comments. Thanks, everybody, for being here. You guys are awesome.
I have no problem telling you how much I love the encouraging comments.
Huh? You're great.
None. Because, I'll tell you what, I get stuck. Like, when the negative comments show up, it gets stuck in your head. Like, this one chick left a slew of comments on our Kanye video, and like telling us pretty much that we're like trying to be black, that we need to stick to our dorky music, singing at the end and all this stuff. And like, I wasn't allowed to have my black moves, and you were wearing a black hat apparently. It's like, you trying to be black by wearing that hat that you had, and I'm like, dude,
it's a black person's hat.
No, it's not. It's a hat, man.
But
like,
isn't that kind of like, it looks very much like the it's the same. It's a flat, almost a flat cap.
It's kind of like a flat cap, and it's tweed, man. Yeah. Like, do you even know your fabrics? But at the same time, I just kind of like laughed. Like, I was laughing at every single comment, and I wanted to respond to them. But then I thought to myself, I literally told this to my mom. No, not that. No, not that. Because occasionally I do that. Yeah. I've been defending Kanye himself throughout this whole thing. But I literally, her comments were so off the wall and so mixed up and so strange. I told my mom last night, I said, I didn't respond because I figured any person that reads those comments are going to go, honey, you cray-cray.
Right.
Because, like, dude, if I want to have moves and I steal them from black people, I'm going to steal them from the black people. Because guess what? It's awesome. Imitation is the sincerest form of what, Leah?
Flattery.
Flattery. Isn't that a beautiful thing? Yeah. And I just thought to myself, this is absolutely ridiculous.
I do not believe in such a thing as cultural appropriation.
And I don't think you understand that deep inside of me here is a black woman. Part of me feels like my inner black person is stifled. And so if I want it to blossom, I identify, because they look younger for a longer time. And they have better rhythm, and they sing. Not all of them. This is
what's absolutely hilarious is that we're anything but country. We grew up like in the city.
Yeah.
But like, it's okay for us to mimic country people and to like go into that flow. It's more easily believable. Like, that's who people believe, that's who we are.
Right.
Because I just tend to flow into a country twang, even though I was raised in
the Northwest,
like a suburb. Like, and I lived in apartments.
Midwest, that's what I meant to say.
Well, and that you can say country. I could say there's country people down the road.
My accent tends more towards northern Ohio
than it does. Because my nana is Wisconsin, and my grandfather he's Swedish, came from Minnesota. I mean, but that's not me. I don't feel that vibe. But the accent is there because that's who we grew up around, you know. So it's just,
but anyway, I'm just saying that the encouraging comments, we read them. Like, so they do not fall on deaf ears. Yeah. They actually do make us want to do more videos and put out more content for you guys. So thank you for being here and being such an amazing, amazing encouragement and Resistance Chicks family. We absolutely love you guys. So we love you. God bless you. Remember, it's not just a conspiracy theory if it's actually the truth.
Is he dead?
Oh, so many people are like, oh, it's fake news.
I don't know.
And I'm like, okay, you know what? Like, not everything in this... I said that to a girl that was questioning Kanye. I was like, not everything in this world is a conspiracy, man. Like,
I know
it's our slogan, but like...
If everything's a conspiracy, then nothing is.
Exactly.
That's why we try to bring out the anomalies.
Right. Yeah. There are sometimes that good things happen. And President Trump does do something in his administration. Like, you do realize that, like, they do kill bad guys in real life. Like, this happens.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be fake just
they
because
don't
it's
always
good.
kill the good guys. All right, we gotta go.
All right. God bless.
I was caught